This next video is a short video, video number 3 for your final project. And when we last left off, we had just subtotaled the total violations for each of the institutions. So many of the institutions have a number of campuses, and we divided it up so we could see the totals for across the institution. The formatting of this does allow you to visually see this with some ease. You can see that it's in bold, but what I wanted to point out before we move on is this section over here, which shows us different views. And you can play around with this, but the first page here is just the total. So these are the totals for violations across the public 2-year campuses for 2002. And even this alone might give you some story ideas. For example, to know that there were 238 illegal weapons possessions on campuses at the public 2 years for 2012, well, that in and of itself may be a story. You could look at things like liquor law violations or drug law violations and compare them to the 4-year universities' same totals. And you could have a story if the numbers are wildly different and other factors are considered, such as campus size and whether people live on or off campus. Another view is this one, and it takes, again, it's a lot of information, so it takes time to load, but is this view, which is really enormously helpful because now we've gotten rid of the campuses themselves and are just looking at the totals and can very easily see that some of the colleges, have 0 violations and some of them have quite a few. And what's nice about this perspective is you can also click on these plus signs, and it will reveal the campuses to you. So if you wanted to kind of dive back into the information, that one isn't at all interesting because that one has zeros. But if we went to something like this one, which has a lot of violations, we can start to see that, well, it's really just one campus, the main campus, that has the issue, not the other campuses. So that starts to help you identify what might be interesting stories here as you're quote unquote interrogating or interviewing this data. Another thing I want to show you is that you can be in this view and go back to sorting. So we can go to sort and then decide that we're going to sort by the number of total violations, and we're going to go largest to smallest. Again, we could eyeball it, but this makes it really easy to see where we have problem campuses. Look at this, Tompkins Cortland Community College. They had a total of 529 violations for the year. When you compare that with this, big drop relatively soon into the data, and especially because we have so many campuses that have, nothing. Look how we've barely gotten through this document, and we're already down to under 10 violations for the year with many zeros. We know something's up at that campus. There's a story there, and that's, again, it's not a campus, it's an institution. Let's go like this, and in fact it is a single campus that is doing that. We can see that now because I just did this section here, and it's just the one campus, a main campus. That and we can also look at institution size here and see that it's a pretty small campus. If that's not a story, I don't know what is. Okay, so we can do that. And now look page 3 here is back to the view that I showed you when we initially did the subtotals. All right, so let's get rid of these subtotals now and move on. So you're going to go over to subtotal and you're going to say remove all. And again, it takes a few minutes because there's a lot of information here. And that's what's so great about Excel, is that it does this for you. So here we are. Now, we had the total violations, and that's really interesting. But what if we wanted to find out something like what percentage of the liquor violations is, what percentage of the total is that? Well, we can go over here and we'll go ahead and call this, liquor violations. Whoops, if I can spell a percentage. And I'm just going to sort of goes. It shows up. Okay, and I'm actually going to resort this so that we can see this more easily. Whoops. Whoops. Okay, so we're going to sort this by institution name, and we're going to go back to A to Z. Get it back to where it was before. Okay, so I want to do the percentage of liquor law violations out of the total. So I'm going to show you what the formula is. Again, it's going to be equal sign because that's what we do each of these with. And we're going to go the smaller amount, which is F2, and we're going to have a problem, and I'm going to tell you how to solve it, divided by G2, which is the total amount. And presumably when we hit enter, this should factor itself out. This should be fine, but we're going to have a problem. We're going to get this error message. And one of the first clues that we were going to get this, in fact, is that we have these green triangles in the corner, which means that there's a problem. And if you look down here, if we go back up here and use that same formula and do our double cross, we'll find that we get that error message in some of these and not others. And once you start looking, what you're going to find out is any place where you have a total violation that has a 0 in it, basically Excel is telling you you can't divide by 0. So any place where you don't have a 0, we're fine, but we're not fine for these calculations. And you know, we could just say, okay, this is happening because we have no violations at that campus, so let's just discount anything like this. We could do a sort here and simply pull from the numbers at the top. But this is another example of running into problems with technology, so I wanted to give you a quick fix for this. And I also want to be upfront and say that so it is because of this number here, and we had that even before we put in this calculation and got these green triangles over here and these error messages, this section already had an error message as indicated by the green triangle. And frankly, I'm not sure exactly how to fix that, so I'm not going to spend more time on it. But I can tell you how to fix this. So I'm going to go ahead and go back and get rid of this stuff. Now we're going to jump into this formula, and I won't go too deeply into what this is, but basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be plugging in a scenario which basically says if A2, I'm sorry, not A2, we're going to have to fix this. I pulled this from a site that tells you how to fix it. If G2, this row right here, equals 0, then we want to get a 0 from this equation. So the original equation that we were going to do was going to be F2 and then divided by G2. So we're basically again saying if G is 0, then we're going to have the sum be 0. So now we're going to click that, and now we get a real 0. Now we can go like this, and we have numbers, you know, it looks better. All right, so one final thing is we did the percentage, so this doesn't help us. We want to see this as a percentage. So we're going to go back up here. I'm going to get rid of that having stretched it out. I'm going to go back here, and we're going to go over to Home, and we're going to go to the percentage key here. We're just going to go like that. So 0% here because nothing is happening at that campus. We're going to double click here, and now we're going to see precisely the percentage of liquor violations out of the whole thing. And again, we can sort this so that we can get the larger number, sort largest to smallest. Whoops, we have to expand that selection. If I just do that, I'm going to screw up my data because it's going to sort this and not the rest of this. So that is one thing you need to be careful of. So I'm going to get out of this so that it's not all highlighted like that. And we're going to do a sort highest to lowest. Okay, so now it took everything with it. And we can see the numbers here that schools that have 100%, that's the problem at their school. And it may not be a very big problem, like on this campus, it's, you know, one violation. So be careful of that too, that you're not overstating the case. But we have some schools that out of the total violations, you know, it's 50%, but here it's 47%. but they have a lot more violations. So you just have to think about all of these things. Okay, this is getting long. I'm going to stop it and cut to another video.